Tinker Tailor Soldier. Tinker Tailor Soldier. Automated tracking cookies and digital profiling. A look at the online persona tracking by corporate entities with respect to advertising. A ramble by Jordan Taylor. So, let's get started. Big data. The gathering and the processing of users' online data has become a lucrative business over the past decade. With the rise of big data, mining to search for trends and patterns in aggregated user information allows for targeted marketing and predictive analytics. This task is divided between data controllers and data processors. Media companies and corporate account hosts, the controllers, see profit in sharing and selling behavioral analytics with advertising agencies, who are the processors. However, the use of behavior tracking cookies extends data gathering further than merely looking at a user's online activity on a single website. Recent legislation introduced in the EU's GDPR requires data controllers to be transparent with their customers with respect to sharing data amongst third-party processors, and provide a clear dialogue of consent, which is the little cookies button that you see. Advertising and marketing services collate user data with the intent to construct profiles based on their interest and characteristics, which is fairly normal, based on age, ethnicity, and stuff like that. This is because there's a strong incentive for advertising networks to actually place more relevant banners to maximize click-through. When studies began, the Network Advertising Initiative found that the conversion rate for targeted adverts was more than twice as large than standard contextual ads. This difference is actually 6.8% versus 2.8% on the click-through rate. Now, according to Pew Research polls, 68% of internet users are actually uncomfortable with such ads. We must acknowledge, though, that the evidence that, although unpopular, behavior targeting is actually a highly effective advertising method. Now, when it actually comes to the use of this data, a targeted behavior change campaign would actually seek to display advertisements tailored to specific demographics with an aim to subtly shift their opinion in preparation for a product launch or a political campaign. Maybe some AI training would involve identifying underlying behavior causes, triggers, and reactions. Change would likely be accomplished with small, subtle nudges, as research shows that perceptions are most effectively changed in small increments over time. Furthermore, detailed online profiles enable the use of micro-targeting techniques. These kind of allow for specifically designed ads to, tug at the emotional heartstrings and pull at the emotional triggers of viewers. Although these are kind of typically hard to pull off due to subjectivity, ads that make people feel do yield the highest impacts, such as, what springs to mind? The John Lewis Christmas adverts. The John Lewis Christmas spike in terms of their sales. They have an 80% increase. Honestly, their spike score increases by a factor of 1.8. It's just pretty insane. Now, it could be argued that with micro-targeting, such a technology is open to abuse in irresponsible hands. Perhaps the highest profile case of this was in the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Whistleblower Christopher Wiley described it as a psychological weapon, and it was kind of used to great effect to espouse Steve Bannon's partisan views to influence multiple Western electorates, be it in the UK or the US. There he is. There's old Christopher, the whistleblower. Now, this kind of raises moral issues surrounding the non-contextual use of people's personal data in corporate and political contexts. Since your data is gathered from across a social media network by the analysis of multiple profile connections, all users could potentially have their data collated and are therefore targets to this. It's indiscriminate in its data gathering methods. It could be argued that this is not right. Not only for a private entity to indiscriminately gather so much data, but especially for when it's being used in actions that may be at odds with your own political views. When directed by a private entity, like a corporation, does a behavior change campaign inherently undermine the values of a liberal society? when one seeks to coerce the public to the government's interest, and in another case where one may seek to coerce the public to a private interest. Look, although both are open for abuse, maybe more public good would come out of a responsibly managed governmental campaigns which would serve the national interest, but you do need to trust those who are in charge. What comes to mind is the UK's Change for Life health programme, where, it could be argued that in contrast, it could be argued that any private campaign ultimately seeks to serve the interest of a select few who are running it, compared to, say, for the public good. That's just some food for thought, though. Now, when you use web services hosted in other countries, your data is being processed and held overseas. Asked similarly before, should we cast an ethical distinction between public and private surveillance? Furthermore, this is of foreign companies seeking to influence the opinions of UK citizens for their own benefit. The EU-US Privacy Shield framework covers transatlantic transmission practices. However, it's an agreement and not necessarily a regulation. While the US FTC imposes relatively heavy jurisdiction over the proper handling of data with regards to the rest of the world, its standards still aren't really as stringent as modern EU and, well, UK law. Yeah, Big Brother is watching. Anyway, I'll probably overrun now, and it's about 6 minutes, and I'm only supposed to talk for 5 minutes, so, what's my point? Well, if anything I really said about the indiscriminate gathering and how it could potentially be used to, influence people. I've tried to do this in a very politically neutral way, but I do have views, I'm just not bringing them up right now. If this in any way disconcerts you, get a tracker blocker. Ghostery is pretty good. Alright, cheers. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.